More.
Krishna, mother, welcome back.
Haribo, Loka. Haribo, thank you so much. I was going to say, yeah, there's Loka here, of course. She's always here. I see Sati's here. All the wonderful devotees. Sati Devi, so always supportive. I see Joshua.
Dear devotees, we thank you. Today is Monday, the 9th of February 2026, and it's Monday, and we are very much honored to have our own Big Mama back. Mother VRAJA-LILA was in India for some time. She just came back, and it is actually out of immense love and devotion that she is here with us today, because I spoke with her a few days ago, and she wasn't feeling very well, but here she is. So, Mother, we thank you so much for all the inconveniences you take to be with us and share your love and wisdom with us. Hare Krishna. So, with that being said, we may put the verse on the screen and you take it over from here.
Yes, there's a couple of things. Haribo Salika Prabhu. Two things I just want to share. I shared this with Saha earlier. We just got a notice that there's going to be a power surge, whatever, I don't know, from 10 to 2. So if for some reason I go off, that means the power is off. Yeah. Just wanted you to know that. And yes, I did come down with pneumonia. And so I'm just recuperating from that. But I wanted to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mother. And we're very grateful to Guru and Krishna for bringing you back and giving you this level of recovery. And we pray for more of Guru Dev's mercy upon you. We're very grateful. Sadi told me about it, and I'm really happy to be here now. Hare Krishna.
Gurnitai, Kijai, Hari Hari, Hari Bol, getting their mercy. Wow, Jagannath. Okay, Sahapu.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay. Haribo, dear devotees. I'm just trying to find the verse in my book also, so I can read from the book. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchavam Narottamam Devam Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Muhurdayat Nasna Prasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevayat Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nashtaki. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, text number 49. And we'll attempt to do the Sanskrit. We'll try. Thank you all devotees for being here. So much appreciate your presence, being in the association of devotees. Okay. Amam Bhavasas Riginaire Nireshu Napstak. Cheto Alividya Dinu Te Padaya Ramater. Vachastanastalav Tulab Sivadyadite Tenkri Sobha Purye Tate Gunaganar Yadikarna Randharaha. I'm going to do this one more time just for my benefit, please. Kama Bhava Swavriginer Nirayeshu Nakstaha Cheto Aliva Yadinute Padayo Ramata Vachasjanasta Lashivadyadite Tengri Sobha Purye Tate Gunaganar Yadikarna Randrihara. Synonyms. as much as deserved. Bavaha birth. Swa Reginae Nahi, by our own sinful activities. Near right Yeshu in low birth. Naha our. Sat let it be. Chaitaha minds. Alivat like bees. Yadi if. Nu may be. Te your. Padayo at your lotus feet. Rameta are engaged. Vachaha words. Cha and. Naha our. Tulasivat like the tulsi leaves. Yadi if. Te your. Angiri at your lotus feet. Interesting. At your lotus feet is Angiri, and then at your lotus feet is Padayo. So Sobaha, beautified. Pur Yeta are filled. Te your. Guna Ganahi, by transcendental qualities. Yadi if. Karna runs he Raha, the holes of the ears. Translation, Srila Prabhupada's translation. Oh Lord, we pray that you let us be born in any hellish condition of life, just as long as our hearts and minds are always engaged in the service of your lotus feet. Our words are made beautiful by speaking of your activities, just as tulsi leaves are beautified when offered unto your lotus feet. And as long as our ears are always filled with the chanting of your transcendental qualities. Wow, Srila Prabhupada's purport. The four sages now offer their humility to the personality of Godhead because of their having been haughty in cursing two other devotees of the Lord, Jai and Vijay, the two doorkeepers who checked them from entering the Vaikuntha planet, were certainly offenders. But as Vaishnavas, the four sages should not have cursed them in anger. After the incident, they became conscious that they had done wrong by cursing the devotees of the Lord, and they prayed to the Lord that even in the hellish condition of life, their minds might not be distracted from the engagement of service to the lotus feet of Lord Narayan. Those who are devotees of the Lord are not afraid of any condition of life, provided there is constant engagement in the service of the Lord. It is said of the Narayana Para, or those who are devotees of Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nakutas Chana Bidhi Yati, Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28. They're not afraid of entering a hellish condition, for since they're engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, heaven or hell is the same for them. In material life, both heaven and hell are one and the same because they are material. In either place, there is no engagement in the Lord's service. Therefore, those who are engaged in the service of the Lord sees no distinction between heaven and hell. It is only the materialists who prefer one to the other. These four devotees prayed to the Lord that although they might go to hell because they had cursed devotees, they might not forget the service of the Lord. The transcendental loving service of the Lord is performed in three ways: with the body, with the mind, and with words. Here the sages pray that their words may always be engaged in glorifying the Supreme Lord. One may speak very nicely with ornamental language, or one may be expert at controlled grammatical presentation. But if one's words are not engaged in the service of the Lord, they have no flavor and no actual use. The example is given here of tulasi leaves. The tulasi leaf is very useful even for a medicinal or antiseptic point of view, even from the medicinal or antiseptic point of view. It is considered sacred and it is offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. The tulsi leaf has numerous good qualities, but if it were not offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, tulsi could not be of much value or importance. Similarly, one may speak very nicely from the rhetorical or grammatical point of view, which may be very much appreciated by a materialistic audience. But if one's words are not offered to the service of the Lord, they are useless. The holes of the airs are very small and can be filled with any insignificant sound. So how can they receive as great a vibration as the glorification of the Lord? The answer is that the holes of the airs are like the sky. As the sky can never be filled up, the quality of the ear is such that one may go on pouring in vibrations of various kinds. Yet it is capable of receiving more and more vibrations. A devotee is not afraid of going to hell if he has an opportunity to hear the glories of the Lord constantly. This is the advantage of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One may be put in any condition, but God gives him the prerogative to chant Hare Krishna. In any condition of life, if one goes on chanting, he will never be unhappy. Whoa, okay. Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganagana Shalakaya. Jakshu Anmalatamiena Tasmai Shri Gurube Namaha. This going to shorten our Mangashalan. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Tale Shimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasatyadi Shatarine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Tale Shimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitakmane Shri Gaura Purna Shakti Bhaktivedanta Tinamine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Okay, Prabhu, so I cut the prayers a little bit only because in case I get disconnected, I wanted to try to share at least a few points on this verse because this whole chapter is so instructive and is so beautiful, right? We get to hear about the kingdom of God. And so, of course, we can't, I mean, we don't usually hear about the kingdom of God without God. You know, God is very much a part of his kingdom. And so we're hearing this beautiful, beautiful pastime about Lord Narayan and his devotees and how they interact with each other. So I'm sure that there have been many speakers that have addressed, shared the story and addressed some of the most important points about the story. Just to reiterate for those of you that may be new on this class and maybe have not been following the pastime, we're at the point where the four Kumaras are offering prayers. And they're offering prayers because they're getting some realizations within the heart, because they've had this opportunity now to see the divine form, the transcendental form of Lord Narayan. And so they're in ecstasy, an ecstasy that they've not experienced before, because as you know, they're Brahmaganis, they're Gyanis, they're liberated souls, and they have, as the verse states, I believe this verse mentions, or maybe some previous verse, that they had already passed through 6 stages or 6 gates of devotion. And so they're at this topmost level, and not the topmost, but they're at this very high level of being able to approach Vaikuntha, which is quite amazing. I mean, being the sons of Lord Brahma, of course, Lord Brahma tells them about Vaikuntha, so they have this eagerness. They want to go, they want to meet the Supreme Lord. And they get this opportunity to do that because they have mystical powers and because they're not ordinary souls by any means at all. As we said, they're self-realized in many ways. And they have the qualifications to enter into Vaikuntha. Now, the challenge is this Vaikuntha is like the last gate. Prabhupada speaks about that. And that gate is only for pure devotees of the Lord, right? Enter into when one gets to Vaikuntha, then they have the opportunity, as we see with the four Kumaras, to become absolutely pure in their devotion to the Supreme Lord. So as we hear in the pastime, it's important to revisit in each verse, what is the backstory in some ways, where we are at this place where the four Kumaras are praying, and what is it that we are to learn as jiva souls in the material world, endeavoring to become devotees of the Lord? What are some of the lessons for us? And so we've learned from Jai Vijay that being judgmental is not a quality that is an ornament for a devotee. It's definitely not ornamental for a devotee to have judgmental thoughts, especially about other devotees. We learned from Jai and Vijay not to be critical based on the skin, because they were critical based on the fact that the four Kumars were naked. They didn't have any clothes on, and they thought that that they were not allowed to enter into Vaikuntha because of not having any clothes on. So they became quite skeptical about them wanting to enter into Vaikuntha. And they also had their duty. They were actually, there's a backstory to this that I'm sure this backstory has been told. However, they had a duty, that they did not, they thought these sages did not have permission to enter into Vaikuntha, and they didn't have the permission to. And they were also kind of, they had a duty to Lord Narayan, because Lord Narayan had actually asked them that they should not let anyone disturb him. And so they were duty bound in many, many ways to the Lord, and also they were duty bound to the service that they had to protect who comes into Vaikuntha. And so in some ways we can say, well, the Jai and Vijay was simply doing their duty. But Srila Prabhupada points out here that duty is not enough, right? When we're in the association of devotees, when we're trying to serve the devotees. So because I know you've all been hearing this pastime, and you've heard it from many different angles, I'm sure. And so I want to check in with you just very quickly. Given that Jai and Vijay they were thinking that they were doing their duty, in the sense that they were not to let anyone into Vaikuntha unless they had permission, and also that there's a certain criteria, right? There's a certain how do you say, like, there's a certain representation that one has when they enter Vaikuntha, and being naked wasn't one of them. And so I want to ask you, if you were playing that role of Jai and Vijay, or one of them, if you were playing the role of Jai or Vijay, what's another way that they could have dealt with this particular situation? The way they dealt with it was like head on, you can't come in. So we see that this, according to Prabhupada, this was offensive. So what's another way that possibly that could have been dealt with, that situation, that would have not been offensive? Curious. All right, guys, you know me. I'm always trying to be interactive. Could they have asked?
Yes, Madalila is saying, could they have asked Lord Vishnu?
Sure, that's one way. They had that relationship with Vishnu. With Vishnu, they were his personal attendants at the gate. So maybe there was a way they could have checked in with Vishnu. What are some other things that they maybe could have done?
Well, I would say that they could have asked the four Kumaras who they were.
Yes. Absolutely. They could have checked in with the four Kumaras themselves, like, who are you? Why are you here? Why don't you have on clothes? What is the reason for you wanting to come, right? And in the material world, in this world that we live in as aspiring devotees, how often have we done that? Where we've just, but based on, our externals and based on our preconceived ideas of situation and people, we just judge them and then we criticize them. And then what this leads to is, we see in this case of this pastime, it leads to behaviors that's not acceptable. And then everyone gets incriminated in the situation, right? Not just the persons that are doing that, but even the master. In this case, the master is Vishnu. So even he is incriminated in this whole pastime, because these devotees are not being respectful. They're not being respectful to each other. So that's a huge lesson throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, that no matter what's going on with devotees, we always maintain a decorum of being respectful. That is just basic Bhagavatam 101. That's like basic. If we're not able to be respectful to the devotees, then firstly, we need to check in with ourselves and see if we're respectful even to ourselves, because it starts, with us being respectful to ourselves. And then it extends outward, right? And it's based really on our material conditioning, and it's based on, just our perception of, or our expectation of others, and our expectation of situations. And oftentimes, we don't really understand the complete situation. So in this case, the Jai and Vijay, they didn't really understand, they didn't understand what was happening in the backstory, so to speak. So the backstory is, of course, we know that Lord Vishnu was resting, and he had given that instruction not to be disturbed. And Parvati, his wife, wanted to go and see him. And these Jai and Vijay, they were under instructions, They said, no, you can't go, because Lord Vishnu says not to be disturbed. They're following instructions, but that kind of pissed Parvati off. She got disturbed, and she told, she was kind of, didn't address it at the moment, but later she told Lord Vishnu, they need to be punished. So of course, Vishnu, the master, he don't want to disturb his wife, because she's asking for some rectification for something that she thought was done that was not proper. And here we have this pastime, right, of these two gatekeepers going to offend the four Kumaras. So Krishna Chikalaga, he knows everything, he does everything. Krishna, Lord Narayan, he's Krishna. I mean, he has 60%, I believe 50% of the qualities of Krishna. Krishna has 4 others that Lord Narayan doesn't have. However, so here we have Narayan having this dilemma, right? His devotee, who is very dear to him, Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, there's no one more dear to me than my devotees. So Jai and Vijay are very dear to him. And the Kumaras, they're like dear to him too. However, they're impersonalists. They don't really understand yet this mood of devotional service. And so this is, now we come to this point that Prabhupada is making in this purport that is so very important for us. This is the instructive, ultimately the instructive lesson. What could Jai and Vijay do before stopping? Oh, okay. Thank you. This is the instructive lesson. There are many instructions, but the one for us, however, the one for us as devotees is now the Kumaras, they have realized, that they acted improperly. They were angry. They became angry. Somebody could ask, well, how could these realized souls be angry? Like, and how could Jai and Vijay curse? And they're in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is supposed to be the place of harmony right? Everything harmonious is supposed to go on there. So two ways to look at this. One, it's a lila, it's a pastime. The Lord is enacting his pastime because ultimately we know what's going to happen. He is going to punish Jai and Vijay, and he's going to make requests from them and give them opportunity to make some decisions. And we'll read about that later as we go on with the story. And so that there's that aspect of the pastime that Narayan is doing many things, many things at the same time. Another aspect of the pastime is these that he wanted the four Kumaras because Brahma wanted them to meet the Lord, right? And so finally the Lord showed himself to the four Kumaras, and the four Kumaras, they became like amazingly I can't even think of a word to say, but just to use a very simple word, they started overflowing in their hearts with love, for Krishna, for Narayan, just because of seeing him. And one of the acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti, he explains that even prior to the Kumaras seeing Lord Narayan, that just by them smelling the tulsi leaf, which is explained here in this verse, when Lord Narayan came into the atmosphere, of course, Lord Narayan is worshipped, right, with tulsi leaves. And so it's explained, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the tulsi leaf wasn't really even on Lord Narayan. It was on a part of his body, right? It was on something on his body. Just like when we decorate Krishna, we never dress Krishna, the Archa-Virga form of the Lord, without putting tulsi on his feet. So also Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that. He says the tulsi leaf had been put on him, and now what happened for the four Kumaras is they just smelled the aroma of this tulsi leaf, and that started churning their hearts. Just imagine, right? Sometimes we kind of minimize some of these amazing gifts that we have been given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? Mahaprabhu, only 500 years ago, or maybe a little more. I mean, he came and gave us, the science of bhakti in a way that we can participate. And so we got this opportunity that we can participate in learning more about Tulsi Devi, right? Just by chanting the holy names of the Lord, by calling Krishna's names, we can get an opportunity to learn more about Tulsi Devi. It like opens up our sense of inquiry when we start trying to know more about the Lord's in this chapter. It's the kingdom of God. So when we start inquiring and wanting to know more about the kingdom of God, of course, we hear about the Lord's associates, and Tulsi Devi being one of those associates that serves all the other gopis, that helps to direct them. We learn she takes this form, right, as a tree and in the world, so that we can understand a little bit more about that service that she offers. So here, the heart of the Kumaras started churning when they just smelled those leaves of Tulsi, just that aroma of Tulsi Devi. And just imagine, their devotees, we have that opportunity here right now to smell those Tulsi leaves. I mean, it's just amazing. And those Tulsi, the aroma of Tulsi churns our hearts, even though we might not be so present to the churning that's going on in our hearts. But as long as we are continuing in devotional service, as long as we're trying to continue in devotional service, then Tulsi Devi is actually serving us. By each time we come in contact with her, we get an opportunity to remember the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his associates. Not just the Lord, but the Lord has his associates, and Tulsi Devi being one of them, right? Very important one. So here, the Kumaras, they smelt this aroma, then they actually get to see Krishna. They get to see Narayan. As we said, Krishna and Narayan, 4 qualities for Krishna that Narayan don't have. But basically, Narayan have 60% of all the qualities of Krishna. So I mean, I don't know about you, but I want to ask you this question again. What happened for you when you first saw the deity of the Lord in our level of consciousness? When you first saw the Archer-Virgo form of the Lord, if you can remember back, but some of you it's a long time ago, what happens? What were some symptoms that you experienced when you saw the Archer-Virgo form of the Lord? I just want to ask a couple of you to open up again and share. Sati.
I remember for Jagat Valley's Vajra and Ghana that I was looking at them and wondering if they were real, or if they could hear me, or if they could like understand me, like if they were alive. I was just looking at them like that.
So you were inquisitive.
Yeah.
They turned that inquisitive nature, that intelligence, that spiritual intelligence, to want to learn more about them. Okay, maybe two other persons. I just want to get a little feel for what happened, just so we can enter a little bit into what happened for those four Kumaras when they saw the Lord. Okay, I'm gonna do this since I wanted to be. I see Joshua. Joshua, have you ever seen the deities of the Lord? Have you seen the forms of the Lord?
Hare Krishna Mataji,
Okay,
only
yeah.
at a home program, home
I'm
deities, not
sorry?
deities in the temple. Only deities in
Okay,
a friend's home, not in the temple. So yes, technically yes, but
Joshua, when you saw the deities in your friend's home, what happened for you?
not sure. It like almost like a breathtaking, like I don't know, when you first start falling in love with somebody, I guess is kind of that feeling, like that fluttering feeling was kind of how I felt, similar to that, I guess, if I had to try and explain it.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, when we see the form of the Lord, there's definitely there are parts of us that get affected. Somehow we get affected. And in my own case, when I first saw the deities of the Lord, I saw Radha Govinda in New York. And I just stood in front of them and I just cried like a baby. I just cried like a baby and I couldn't stop. I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to turn around. I didn't know why I was crying, but it was like I was shedding lifetimes of tears in front of seeing the forms of the Lord. So just imagine, the four Kumaras, they get this opportunity to see the Lord face to face. I mean, these are not ordinary souls, right? They're the utmost in gyanis, in self-realized beings. And they see Krishna, they see Narayan, they see Narayan's body and Narayan's effulgence and all of Narayan's beauty, and they get spellbound. They're like, oh Krishna, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh Narayan. They have like they're in another world at this point, and immediately they become pure devotees. They become lovers of Krishna. They experience praying at that moment. And so Prabhupada is explaining to us, because they had that experience, this prayer that they have offered. Oh Lord, we pray that you let us be born in any hellish condition of life. I mean, this is a genuine, heartfelt prayer. Not only are they repentant from how they treated, the Lord's devotees, they're just overwhelmed by the whole situation, and they're realizing, oh, what did we do? How did we minimize these great personalities the way we did? And they're saying, just from that experience of smelling the aroma of the Tulsi leaf, and just from that experience of personally seeing Lord Narayan, they're saying we can go to any hellish condition, being any hell you want to send us, just as long as we can remember your devotional service. Just as long as we can remember your devotional service. So when we think of personalities that are teaching us like that, and we think of Lord Chaitanya and what Lord Chaitanya has given to us in terms of us having opportunities to not have to go to hellish condition, right? We don't have to say, we don't have to enter into that mood of the four Kumaras that they just want to go to hell because they committed offense. Lord Chaitanya is so merciful that he gave us the holy names, and he said, even if you commit in most abominable activities, well, okay, that's Krishna. Krishna says, even if you commit the most abominable activity, that he will still be there. He's still there for us. And Lord Chaitanya is explaining that in a different way in his Shastakam prayers. He's explaining just this mood, right, of Chinadapi Sunichena. If we can just develop this mood, then the Lord's holy names are available for us at any time, even when we have been the most offensive, just by taking the holy name to heart and calling on the holy names. Now, I was recently listening to I guess it's like a seminar from Sachinandan Swami. He's doing these, he's doing this seminar in Govardhan right now. It's called Saranagati. And so he was speaking about the holy names of the Lord, and he was chanting, actually, he was singing. And he was encouraging the devotees, to chant. And so when he finished the chanting the holy names of the Lord, singing the holy names of the Lord, he said, everyone needs to sing the holy names of the Lord, no matter what, no matter where, in the shower, whatever you're doing, just sing. Because the reality is, most of you don't chant. Most of you don't just chant the holy name like Japa chant, Most of you don't do that. And he says, the longer it appears to him, the longer we stay in devotional service, the less we chant the holy names of the Lord, meaning the less we sit quietly and call in God's and Krishna's names. And, this is the benediction that we've been given in this age, in this time, that Lord Chaitanya has given us these holy names that we can chant it at any time. And not only do we, of course, it's recommended that we sit and we chant, call the names, but we can sing the names. We can, and that's the point Sachinanda Maharaj was making. Just sing, my dear devotees, just sing the holy names. If you're not able to sit, of course, it's like I said, it's recommended that we sit and chant the holy names. So this pastime helps us to remember this mood of when we first had this opportunity to connect with the Archa-Virga form of the Lord, which is actually non-different, right? It's here to awaken our heart. The Archa-Virga form of the Lord is here to awaken our hearts, to start beginning to understand what praying is, what that mood is, to truly love the Lord, to truly surrender to the Lord. And so here we are, devotees. We are 2026, and many of us have been practicing for so many years. And many of us, I can speak for myself, there are times, when I think, Krishna, I want more. I want more. I want more. And how do I get more, I heard a devotee recently praying like that. I don't want to go back to those things that I thought was so, so satisfying or so pleasurable. Because what's really pleasurable is when we meet the Lord. That's what's really pleasurable. And so how do we stay in that consciousness of like meeting the Lord for the first time? That's the question. How do we keep that mood? And of course, it's important to know what not to do, because if we learn what not to do, then we know, okay, this is not going to let me stay in that mood of meeting the Lord. It's not going to let me have that experience of being with the Lord for the first time and keep that experience going on, continuously. It seems lofty, but it's real. It's who we are. It's what we're to aspire for, is to be with the Lord, to experience the Lord like the four Kumaras did, and to experience the Lord in such a way that we don't want anything else. And so that prayer, my dear Lord, how can I be like that? How can I always keep you in the forefront of my consciousness? How can I not be offensive to your devotees, my Lord? Please help me. And so in that mood, we can learn from the four Kumaras, and we can learn from Jai and Vijay how to aspire to go deeper, to go deeper. Recently, when I was in Govardhan, I did this workshop with Burjan Prabhu. It was called Alone with Krishna. Alone with Krishna. How can we be alone with Krishna in our everyday activities? So Lord Chaitanya has given that to us. We can be alone with Krishna in his holy names. And so how much we take advantage of that, well, that's our choice, right? It's given to us and it's available, and we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. However, we do need to have the sweetness of connecting with the holy names. And so, dear devotees, thank you so very much. I'm very grateful. The power didn't go off. And in this purport, the last point that Prabhupada made that is so important for us is just by these four Kumaras seeing the Lord, it moved the needle for them from being impersonalists, from being Gyanis, to now experiencing bhakti, pure devotional service. And similarly, each of us, when we first met the Lord, wherever we met him, whether it's like Joshua from a friend, or in a temple, even in a picture, when we first met the Lord, we started moving the needle. We started making those choices that we wanted to get to know the Lord more and more and more. And the Lord wants that. Prabhupada says he explains about the ears. The ears can hear so much. And so simply by practicing just those two aspects of devotional service, hearing and chanting. So many of you are so fortunate you get to hear every day. We thank Sahadev for continuing with this service, and Salika Prabhu gives every devotee a chance to hear. However, more important than hearing is acting, right? Prabhupada and our beloved spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti-Tirtha Maharaj, he says love has to be in action. Love in action. So when we hear, we need to apply what we're hearing in our lives. It's not, yes, it's wonderful to hear. But if we're not showing that in our daily lives, how it's impacting our daily lives, then it's just, like parrots, right? We're just hearing like parrots. And so how do we internalize what we hear? We take deep shelter of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear devotees, even though I am not qualified to in any way call the holy names of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya, in his mercy, gave me an opportunity. And that opportunity, by the mercy of my spiritual master, is I'm praying you know, to please let me give this life to really imbibing and internalizing this opportunity. So thank you, devotees. Thank you very much. Nitai Gaura Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother VRAJA-LILA. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute it to ask your question. And Nadine, Nidanam Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
I guess I'm very windy place, so I don't know if I'm audible.
I can hear you.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay. So, Mother, thank you for your dashing after a long break. So, Mother, my question is, it is said that two wrongs can never make a right. And in the purport, we realize that when the Kumara, when they pronounced their curse, they were not in their right consciousness. So when they regained their right consciousness, they realized that what they did was not wrong. But I didn't see what sort of punishment were given to them also, unlike the Jaya and Vijaya.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. It's a deep question. Thank you so much. Actually, the four Kumaras, their punishment, so to speak, was the rectification from them being impersonalists to now taking on the path of bhakti. Remember, Krishna is about love, right? When Krishna punishes us in so many different ways. And so punishment doesn't always mean I'm beating up on you and I'm making you bad. Even in the case of what he did with Jaya and Vijaya was very loving because Krishna wanted the sport. He wanted to fight. So for Jaya and Vijaya, he just created a situation where he could have three devotees to fight with, three people that were taking on the persona of villains that he could fight with. But they were his devotees, and he knew that they would come back, right? In the case of Jaya and Vijaya, he would bring them back. The four Kumars, what he did for them is he took away that tendency for being a Gyani, for being an impersonalist, for what I believe the word is Brahmagani or something like that. He took that away and he gave them devotional service. He gave them that benefit of being able to, because remember, that was their desire, right? So much of our whatever happens to us is based on our intention. So the four Kumars didn't go there with the intention to curse the Jaya and Vijaya. That came because when they had that experience with Jaya and Vijaya, it ignited an emotion, right? That's still there. Even in a self-realized soul, anger is still present. And so it ignited that emotion. And so, but Krishna acted on what was his real intention, what were their real intentions, which was to see him. They wanted to see him. That's why they were coming to Vaikuntha. So even though they did something that appears that it wasn't proper, that they cursed Jaya and Vijaya, Krishna himself came and intervened, right? And so and because they were wrong, because they did something wrong, Jaya and Vijaya, Krishna himself dealt with the conflict in such a way that he pacified everyone. He pacified the four Kumaras by letting them engage in bhakti. He pacified Jaya and Vijaya to satisfy his desire to fight. And he pacified Lakshmi by letting Jaya and Vijaya seemingly have a punishment. Outwardly, it appeared like a punishment. But really, it was to facilitate Krishna's desire. So I said that earlier, Krishna does many things at the same time, right? So I hope that answers. And if anybody else would like to add to that, Salika, Saha, Leela, anyone here, I see her Chuck right here, Loka, anybody would like to add anything to that, I'm very happy to hear. Varaja is here, Mitravinda is here, Suniti is here. How wonderful. Thakur Murari. Anybody would like to add to
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you. What I know from this pastime is that the Kumaras were not quote unquote punished per se. Like Mother VRAJA-LILA was saying, they were actually transformed from being impersonalists to personalists. Some may call that punishment, but in reality, there was no punishment. And even the Jai Vijay curse, we see it as curse, which is the punishment, but actually it wasn't, because it was the will of the Lord to have this opportunity to have this pastime on the Earth planet. So my question will be, even though Mother Raj is asking us to share our insights, but my question from that is that the Lord used his devotees to enact these pastimes. And we can learn from these pastimes. So what do we as conditioned souls learn from these pastimes, where one is assigned a particular responsibility and someone is interfering or interrupting with the service, and per his service, he is trying to make sure that the right thing is done. And maybe along the line, trying to do what is the right thing may step on the toes of other devotees. What does the person who stepped on the toes experience, and what should be the reaction of the person whose toe, so-called, has been stepped on? That would be my question. But maybe if you want to go around and get other devotees' perspective, we may do that.
Well, let me just, yeah, I'll do that, but let me respond since you asked that, and I'm thinking about that right now. So we are a part of a sweet process. We're a part of sweetness. What Krishna is sweeter than sweet, ultimately. So if we look at the bigger picture of why we are engaged in Krishna consciousness, is because we want to taste this sweetness that so many of the previous acharyas and so many of the associates of Krishna that they're tasting. We want that sweet taste. So is it that, devotees don't do things that could be annoying or distracting or disturbing? We see in this pastime right here, it was very disturbing for both parties, for the Kumaras and for Jai and Vijay. Very distracting, right? Because ultimately Krishna had to come personally. Of course, by him coming personally, he gave his sweetness. So it's not that, we may not differ at different times in our exchanges with each other. We may have our perspectives. We may even have our belief systems. What is important is that we respect each other as we do that. As we express ourselves, Krishna gives us this free will. And of course, we have choices to always be expressive. Freedom of expression is important, even the spiritual world. It is how we express ourselves, like when we read in Mahabharata about the fighting, right? We learn, of course, didn't always happen in Mahabharata, but we learn that at the end of the day, when there was war, that the two groups would come together and they would celebrate at the end of the day. And then the next day they're at war again, you know? So it's not like in the material world where someone does something, says something, whatever, and we take it so personally. I remember in my own spiritual evolving, you know, as a devotee under the care of my spiritual master, my grandma always used to tell me, you know, it's not about you, VRAJA-LILA. It's not about you. And I used to think, why is he saying that? I'm trying to do all these things that service, and yeah, I'm trying to surrender. I used to think like that. I'm trying to, you know, give my life, right? And he would always you'd always remind me, it's not about you. It's not about you. And so years later, I started understanding that. Years later, when I would see, oh, I hold on so much to this opinion or so much to this perspective to the point where I don't even want to be around a devotee that doesn't have my belief system, my perspective. And that's crazy, you know, because I'm making it so much about me. So even though I might be making it about me for something that I might believe is very important for the whole, maybe for my community or for my, you know, my whatever, my spiritual development, whatever, I'm thinking I'm doing the best thing, right? I'm thinking like that. I'm doing the best thing. And so this little statement, it's not about me, helped me over the years to really become more conscious when I get into a conflictual situation with any devotee, that I remember the bottom line, you know? Firstly, it's not about me. And secondly, always be respectful. So even in the challenges that I personally have faced with devotees, I've always maintained a decorum of being respectful and always maintain a decorum of speaking kindly to those devotees. Always. And so I've watched over the years, you know, I think about 5 years ago or so, I came into one of those difficult situations, really overwhelmingly difficult, where my emotions were kind of taking charge and my perspective and belief system became the ammunition for refueling my emotions. And I became, and what happened over the years, I realized the only reason I survived those situations and now me and those persons can speak together so lovingly is because I always maintain that mood. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I love you. I love you. And sometimes people will say, how can you still love that person? And I say, well, I don't really know if I love them, but I'm going to say I love them because I want to love them. I want to love them. I want to love them. And ultimately, that's the sweetness, you know? I mean, yeah, there's bitterness, of course, as we're trying to evolve on this process of bhakti. There always will be some bitterness. But how we accept that bitterness is important. How we deal with that bitterness. If we look for the sweetness in the bitterness, we'll find it. We'll find it. And we won't just get stuck, you know, on, oh, it's just on the little details, because the details are going to change. Gurudev, my Guru Maharaj used to always say to me also, 10 years from now, what will this matter? 15 years from now, what will this matter? And now as I think about that, you know, and my body's getting older, I'm getting sick, I'm aged. And I think, yeah, what does it matter? What does it really matter? You know, ultimately what matters is how I can somehow or other have exchanges that reflects my relationship with Krishna and what I've learned about Krishna. That's why this chapter is so important, the kingdom of God. How do we learn from the kingdom of God how to be? And that's why this still pastime is there in the kingdom of God. Even when people get angry and someone does something we think they shouldn't do it that way, they should do it another way, and whatever. Then, you know, at some point, Krishna intervenes. At some point. If we always remember that, Krishna will intervene. Okay, Saha, sorry.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you so much. As always. In my case, of course, I'm still struggling in my devotional service, and I try my best to love each and every one. But there are so many people I do not like. And I cannot stay away from that because there are certain things we are all being guided by. And if I find someone not following that, not because of weakness, but consciously not wanting to follow that and trying to make his inability or unwillingness to follow that his style should be the standard. There is no way I can accept that. And my prayer has always been like the prayer of the four Kumaris. If for that reason I have to be sent to hell, may it be so, but may I never forget Krishna. Matravinda Devi, please, you may unmute. I saw your hand up.
May I say one thing about this statement you just made, Saha? I absolutely understand how we don't always like the devotees' behaviors. You know, sometimes devotees' behaviors are very conditioned, and so we may not always appreciate their behaviors. But a devotee behavior is not who a devotee is. A devotee is different from their behavior. And if we can somehow or other simultaneously remember that this person is actually a spirit soul covered, and you know, whatever they may be going through, we don't know why Krishna is allowing that, whatever allow, because ultimately we got to somehow or other remember that Krishna, he's the one that arranges everything ultimately. I mean, even through his external material energy, so we all can learn. And so if we always remember, you know, this is spirit soul, this person is, you know, maybe covered, and we don't like the behavior, but behaviors change. You know, I can remember some behaviors that I've had that many people didn't like, and my behavior has changed over the years. So we all can change.
Yeah, well, thank you. Maybe I misspoke. But what I meant was, like I always say, I try to guide myself with the teachings of Lord Jesus Christ, who taught us that hate sin, but not the sinner. And that is why I said I try to love everyone regardless, but I do not like some people. That means that I do not like certain things certain people do at certain times. And oftentimes I do not like myself because there are many things I do sometimes. Later on, I sit back, I think about why I did what, and I ask myself, why did I do that? So if I do not like myself sometimes, I don't think it will be wrong not to like other people sometimes when they are doing something wrong. But like I said, I also strongly believe that it is just the behavior of the individual, and that behavior can change. And so if there is anything I can do for that person to change his behavior, I would like to do that. Mother Atma was laughing at me the other time because I had said in my New Year greetings that I wish all my enemies to be prosperous and actually more prosperous than myself. Because I strongly believe that if my enemies are more prosperous than myself, then they will stop hating on me. Because sometimes people hate me because they think I have this, I have that, and they don't have it. But may Krishna give them all so that they stop hating on me. And my was part of me. But I meant it, and I still mean it, that I wish everybody well. If everybody being well will bring peace, at the end of the day, that is what we are looking for. We want peace, because if there is peace, then there is going to be happiness. And we're all looking for happiness. So that is my mood. but I do not ever see myself being silent over an obvious deviation. And my prayer is just like that. I love this verse. My prayer is just like the four Kumaris. I pray to Guru and Krishna that they never let me forget about the Lord, His holy name, and the pastimes. Wherever I may go, it doesn't really matter. As long as I know I'm doing the right thing, everything else is secondary. Mitravinda Devi is back. Please, you may unmute, Mitravinda.
Hello, Mitra.
Hi, Haribo. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to one add to the notion that, you know, we're not perfect and that you know, devotees are not their actions. I wanted to add that to varying degrees, of course, that's a truth, but to a varying degree, depending on what the action is, there's still a great responsibility if we are practice the word also. There's a responsibility to be.
It's a little difficult to hear you because.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So there, to varying degrees, there's a responsibility to atone. I don't think it's as effective as it needs to be to state that devotees are not their deeds. Our actions have an impact on ourselves and others. So in the best way, we must include that atonement, apology, and change is necessary, rather than blanketing that we are not that, because again, to varying degrees, our actions have a great weight on our society and the world at large. So it's being responsible for those actions, I gently and with compassion and with qualified people to assist, that people can overcome, I do believe. The other thing is that regarding Jai Vijay, it's how it was done. Like they had their service, but in doing their service, how they did it caused the offense. And that is definitely something that is useful in any interaction that we have, whether we're parents or coworkers or doing a service at a temple for, you know, a festival or what have you, how we do it, the right intention, attempting to be Krishna conscious is there. But if we're doing that service in a way that agitates, minimizes, abuses, neglects, or so many other things that are not relatable to being Krishna conscious, which is not just a position, it's not you know, an action only, it's how people feel about those actions. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you so much for being here, Mother VRAJA-LILA. It's good to have you back. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mitra. Thank you for sharing those nuances. That's very important, you know, in understanding our theology, and very important in entering into these leelas, these pastimes. So yes, you know, I was thinking of that statement Prabhupada made about the ear and being, you know, the ear can hear so many things, like the EAR is like the AIR. The air is passing, you know, just passing and not constricted by anything. So similarly, we can hear in our ear so many different things. When I listened to that, when I heard that, and when I read that, I was thinking about different levels of devotional service and different levels of consciousness, different levels of how we are connected, to Krishna and the path of bhakti. And we see from this pastime that the different, the level of the four Kumaras, they were realized souls, but yet, they got angry. And we see from the four Kumaras, from Jaya and Vijay, that they were devotees of the Lord themselves, but yet, yes, because of their duty and because they're following the rules and regulations, they acted inappropriately. They were disrespectful. They didn't take the time to even find out anything about these other persons that were entering into Vaikuntha. So there's so many different nuances, when we look at these pastimes, and when we try to apply things in this world, with the material conditionings of the devotees in this world, then it is very important to always, at least for me, I always think of the Jaya and Vijay, the pastime of Lord Chaitanya with who was that? I'm thinking of Jaya and Vijay, but it's not. It's in Chaitanya Lila, when Nityananda mercifully, what are those two devotees' name again? Can't remember their names right now. They're people that we think about all the time. All the time, right? We spend so much time in our philosophy talking about them. What are those persons? Sorry?
Jaya. No, Jaga and Mother.
Jagai and Madai, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Murari Prabhu, thank you. Jagai and Madai, right? They exemplified, so much of that mood of not caring about anything, anyone, not caring about, they didn't care. They basically did not care. So we do have that mood of devotees that they just don't care. That's there. But then what was the mood of Lord Nityananda? That's there for us to learn from also. Somehow or other, yes, he mercifully gave them an opportunity. And yes, of course, they atoned for their behavior. Just like here we see the four Kumaras are atoning, they're guilty. They did something that was not necessary. So they're atoning. And so, yes, that does need to be there. But that requires different, like a level of consciousness, right? So as aspiring devotees, we are on different levels of consciousness. And until we can kind of accept that, and we don't have expectations, why aren't you on this level? We hear about those 7 gates that the Kumaras went through, right? The 7 gates. And so we learn that those 7 gates are represented by our faith. The 6 gates are represented by our faith, by our association, by our devotional service, by our anartha nivritti, how we're cleansing ourselves from our material conditioning, by our steadiness in Krishna consciousness, our nishtha, by our taste, by our ruchi. So all of these are to be taken into consideration when we deal with devotees. Because some devotees are just on the level of just trying to have faith. They're not on levels that we might want them to be. They're just not. And, ultimately, Krishna is the only rescuer. Ultimately, in this pastime, who came to the rescue? Krishna, Narayan. Narayan came to the rescue. We're not the rescuers of people for where they are and how they are in their consciousness. We may be able to offer some suggestions. We may be able to, understand oh, yeah, this behavior is not such a nice behavior. Ultimately, we're not their rescuers. The rescuers that's been sent in this world are the spiritual masters. They have been given that title to come and rescue people. And so sometimes we play God on other devotees because we want them to be at a level where they're just not. And until we can accept where devotees are and treat them with respect for where they are, and not necessarily accept to where they are, but just like, okay, that's where you are, fine, Haribol. That's not where I'm at, and that's not where I want to be. like that, you know, and then that gives us that helps us develop that mood of compassion for the devotees. Somebody's just trying to have faith. That's pretty incredible in this Kali Yuga. Pretty incredible. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Anadi Dhiranam Prabhu, please see me unmute.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you, and Saradi Prabhu. Thank you for the opportunity once again. So, Mother, it looks like oftentimes cases on the transcendental platform is oftentimes not reversed. Just in the case of Parikshit Maharaj and the Brahmana boys talking about the Jaya and Vijaya. Why is it so? Just as in the material world, oftentimes, yes, cases are being reversed when you realize that what you did was not good. You can reverse it. But it looks or it appears that on the transcendental platform, oftentimes when cases are pronounced, they don't reverse it. Why is it so? Hare Krishna.
If I'm hearing correctly, Saha, please help me. The last part I missed about what is not being reversed in the transcendental platform.
So he's asking a very beautiful question that on the transcendental platform, he realizes that when curses are pronounced, they are
When what? I'm sorry. When what are pronounced?
curse.
Oh, curse. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. When a curse is given. Yeah.
When a curse is pronounced, usually they are not reversed. Whereas in the material world, when someone curses and he realizes that he cursed out of ignorance, out of mistake, he or she can go back and reverse the curse. So he's trying to find out why that is the case, that on the transcendental platform, when curses are pronounced, they never get reversed.
Okay, so firstly, let's look at the material world and understand the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, right? And the material world is real, but not real. It's a reflection to help us to understand the real world. What is the real? Sometimes we refer to the material world as the real world. This is the real world. This is a playground, and we're all playing. We're pretending in these different roles that we have. Or we have different moods, and it's just a pretend. We're just pretending. However, in the spiritual world, in the transcendental world, oftentimes, and even in this world, situations are created in terms of curses. Back to that ear analogy, the ear analogy. In the transcendental world where Krishna lives with his associates, right? We don't hear so much about curses. We hear about Krishna killing the demons as pastimes, right? Krishna's lilas, Krishna enacting pastimes, for the pleasure, for his pleasure, and sometimes for the pleasure of his devotees. Also in Vaikuntha, Narayan is also enacting pastimes for the pleasure of his devotees in many cases, and also for Narayan's pleasure. So the difference in the material world, this perverted reflection, is we've taken Narayan out. We've taken Krishna out, right? In most cases. Now I'm not speaking about aspiring devotees. I'm speaking about just the materialists. So so the materialists, we're cursing each other, but we do have still in the material world some qualities, some basic human qualities. And so those basic human qualities are arranged in such a way, in this perverted reflection, that we can develop this compassion, right? That's needed. So when a person is compassionate, they don't take so seriously, the things that people do in the material world that seemingly is right or wrong, whatever. Some things seem right, some things seem wrong. They don't take that so they can develop that mood of compassion towards those persons. They can develop that mood because as humans, we do have that capacity to be compassionate. However, in the transcendental world, things are enacted for Krishna's pleasure. It's activities are going on, but they're not for us. It's not about us. It's about Krishna. And so there is a difference. It's not that it's not addressed. It's that Krishna creates these situations so that he can teach us lessons of how he chooses to address them. And then he does that in many, many different ways. And here in the material world, the qualities that we have as human beings enable us to remember sometimes to be kind, basic simple qualities that we're given in these human bodies that we are able to exercise. So it may appear, that we are more forgiving maybe in the material world. However, in the spiritual world, Krishna is most forgiving because he's doing most of the things he does for his pleasure, most of everything that goes on, right? Here, it's also Krishna. There's also Krishna's external energy that are doing things to help us to learn and to grow. And human beings, we've been blessed to be able to have, as I said, these qualities, to be able to, to develop these qualities of kindness, compassion, just caring. We've been blessed with those qualities. However, Lord Chaitanya has given us an opportunity to enter into transcendence, right? And so by entering into transcendence, by chanting the holy names of the Lord, by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we're able, even in these human bodies, to enter into the transcendental paradigm of understanding more about our true self, our real self, who we really are, that's being moved here, that's being coordinated, if you will, by the Lord. The Lord then acts when we become more transcendental. The Lord takes over. When we are more in material consciousness, it's just material energy. It's the Lord, but it's the Lord's external energy. It's material energy. I hope that answers it a little bit.
And I didn't have a problem. Satisfy your question? Well, we're very grateful that somehow Mother Braj is still here with us because.
Oh, I'm amazed.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to be here because devotees, I'm sharing these things, but I'm really sharing them for myself, and I mean that sincerely. When I was in India and towards the latter part of my journey, I think some of you may have known or heard. Thank you, Anandini Prabhu. May have heard that we had a flight to come back, to America before we were actually able to come back. And we were on the plane coming back to America, and we were 3 hours on the plane flying back to America. And the pilot announced on the plane, I'm sorry, we have to turn the plane back to our original original place where we started, because at that time what they said was that the Iranian airspace was closed, and I guess that the way they fly to America is through that airspace. So they said you have to come back, and we ended up back in Delhi. And when we were in Delhi, we didn't know where to go. We didn't know what to do. They didn't give us like a hotel or anything. So we had to really sit and think about this. And the Ekavira Prabhu, he said, let's go back to Govardhan. Let's just go back to Govardhan. And I mean, we could have gotten a hotel. There are many things we could have done, but he made that suggestion. Let's go back to Govardhan. And so we took this, we paid this taxi like 3 times what you pay to go to Govardhan. We ended back in Govardhan. And we went to this place, this place where we had stayed before we had left, like we had left there a month ago, and now we come back to the same place. And I remember going to Giraj, and at the time, and I had this realization in my heart of how little I am, how small and insignificant I am in relationship to bhakti and what Krishna offers, and how in this little insignificant person, somehow or other, as insignificant as I am, the Lord brought me back to Govardhan. The Lord brought me back to his shelter, you know, and I remember like just thanking Krishna. Thank you, dear Lord. Thank you, Giraj, for giving us this opportunity to come back here. And so we had to be back there, and really, you know, the plane got canceled like 3 times after that, but we were in Govardhan. This mood of recognizing our insignificance, I found for me at the time, was what gave me that impetus, that courage to just like want to continue being a devotee, wanting to go deeper. And so I hear from the acharyas that the more that they realize how important they are to Krishna, like their services are to Krishna, the less they think of who they are, the less they think of themselves as being important, the less. And I had a little glimpse of that, of realizing, what can I, you know, I can't even, like the plane, you know, like what control do I really have? None, not really, not really. So this is the lesson of material world, to teach us that we're not controllers. We think we are, we want to be. We're not rescuers. Only Krishna can rescue us, right? Who rescued us at that airport? No one. Ultimately, Krishna did. So at some point, all of us will get opportunities, and many of you have, to just remember, you know, it's about Krishna. It's not about us.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Govinda Prabhu, yes, please, you may unmute. Govinda Prabhu.
Hi, Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother VRAJA-LILA ki jai. This is my respectful obeisances.
Respects to you,
Close
Prabhu.
Gurudev, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. A very nice, wonderful presentation. But Mother, you spoke so much. The way I'm looking at the presentation today is all circled around try to be mindful, try to be humble, and try to like be in your lane, self-introspective, and try to move forward. That you don't look around, but there are so many chaos everywhere. Like we keep focused in our goals. That's what I'm getting from you. But I'm also looking at about responsibility. I know we've taken shelter under our the lotus feet of our gurus, and be a disciple means to try to understand the mood of the guru and try to work such. And the mood of guru is to protect what he has received also from his guru, and in this case, Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada has built a house in which the whole world can live. And so duty as a disciple is to protect the house that has been built by the spiritual master, by Srila Prabhupada. And so I feel that the disciples, we have responsibility. If we are not able to expand, which we are supposed to, expand the vision of the gurus, then at least we should protect what he has left us. We should not sit down for things to go wrong or to fall apart. When Rahu disguised himself as a demigod, the demigods saw that he's not part of us, he's a demon. And they did not keep quiet. Immediately they exposed him. And Mother Rohini also did justice to Rahu. And so if we see that, well, we welcome everybody as a devotee, trying to take shelter under the umbrella of bhakti. But people come into the field of devotion with different levels of consciousness. Like Krishna says, 4 people surrender to him. And so we see everybody as a devotee trying to take shelter. And so there are certain things that is, that can go on, that once we know that this is going to break the house of Srila Prabhupada, the house that Srila Prabhupada has built, has, sweat. Somebody is trying to break it down. And then we look at, like you are saying, we have to talk about it, but in a very polite way, because the Kumaras did not, exercise that quality. Then how are we going to get things done? Certain things are going wrong in a movement, and everybody is quiet. We are afraid to offend somebody. So what do we do in a situation like that? Because we are supposed to be in the mood of our spiritual master and protect this movement. And if somebody is trying to break the movement, contaminate the movement, make the movement look otherwise, what do we do? What do we do as a disciple?
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu. Yes, thank you. Your disciple relationship is sacred, of course. And disciple is always thinking, how do I in whatever small way I can, how can I protect my spiritual master and my spiritual master's legacy? That's just so key. It's so important. At the same time, what we learned from this pastime is that Jai and Vijay, they did something that wasn't really wrong in a sense. It's just the way that they did it. The way they did it that made Vishnu, their master, had to come into the whole situation. So I believe Mitravinda said that earlier, that it's not that we don't address things. It's not that certainly there are things that will go on as long as we see the pure devotee, they're not affected by any of this stuff. Pure devotees, right? With pure devotee, somebody that's totally transcendental, they don't take somebody's doings as right or wrong or bad or good or whatever. They're not affected. However, when we come into, so that's an Uttama Adhikari. When we become a Madhyama Adhikari, right? We then become more, let's say, involved in material kinds of things, right? To help the Kanishta Adhikaris. So for someone to act on a Madhyam platform, they are very conscious about making changes and transformations. At the same time, there's a way to go about it. And if we're confused about the way to go about it, then we need to check in with the previous acharyas, and we need to check in even, with our spiritual master to see, how did my spiritual master deal with, situations like this? Perhaps maybe not directly that particular situation, but what are some examples of how he dealt with conflictual situations? So there's always some guideline, right? There's always some way to check in with our behavior. And if we keep hearing, that, like in this case, in the past time, Vishnu himself came, Narayan came, to let Jai and Vijay know, okay, you did not act properly, right? You did not respect these Kumaras. You did not act properly. So he then had to intervene in the situation. So if there are, persons that are, let's say, they're not, they're impartial. How to find people that are impartial, that cannot that's not taking sides with the situation, that can come and say, well, this behavior is acceptable or this behavior is not acceptable. The challenge comes when we want people to be impartial, to be partial. That's when the challenge comes. We have our perspective. We think it's supposed to be done like this. We're wanting to, in this case, protect Guru, which I'm not saying no to that. However, if somebody gives some suggestions that seems contrary, to how those persons are thinking it's supposed to be, then immediately those persons can be labeled as partial. They're partial. They're not really impartial. And so, we just gotta kind of see. It's very delicate play. It's a delicate play, right? What was it recently? That yesterday, I think they were playing the football. So it's playing the football. It's like a tackle. It's like people, you gotta know to play. Gotta know how to do the play. And so it's important, I think yes, the intention can be right, but as what Guru Maharaj says, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, we can go about doing the right thing in the wrong way. So we just got to learn, understand, and ask, am I doing this the right way? And if everybody's, if all of the persons that we trust are saying, yes, you're doing this the right way, then fine. Then yeah, then keep trying to do what you got to do, but it's got to be done in the right way. How do we know if it's the right way? Everyone is feeling valued and acknowledged. Everyone in the situation, even if we disagree, the persons are thinking, but they value me, they acknowledge me. See, we tend to make things personal, and that's sometimes what throws the whole thing off. I hope that answers your question, Prabhu.
Yes, yeah, Mother, thank you very much. It answers the question, but I trust you as a mother, and I trust him as a father. And my brothers and sisters are doing something to me, I know it's wrong. And I complain over and over again and again to my mother and father, and they are not saying anything. They keep mute about the wrongdoing going on. What should I keep quiet because they are not giving me the approval? If there's anything else I can do to save the situation, do I keep quiet because I've not gotten approval from my mother and father, who are supposed to be my authorities? I have to keep quiet.
So it's not about necessarily keeping quiet. I'm not saying people should not have freedom of expression. All of us need to have freedom of expression. However, I heard this class the other day that kind of triggered me a little bit, and I thought, this is interesting perspective. So this devotee was speaking about husband and wife, and he was saying that a husband could be doing something not abusive, but something that is not really like acknowledging his wife, or not really appreciating his wife, or not really like doing things that perhaps the wife may not feel happy in her role as a wife. And so the Prabhu was saying it's the duty of the wife, to stay in that situation, because ultimately, that husband will get whatever is due to him ultimately by Krishna, ultimately. So Krishna is always in the picture, right? Krishna is always in the picture. And so at first I was like, my natural modern day woman inclination is, why would you want to be in a relationship where the person is just not acting properly? Maybe they're not being abusive, like physically or emotionally abusive, but still a person cannot have proper behavior. But then I thought about it, and I thought about it more and more, and I realized, yes, ultimately that each person is responsible to Krishna, ultimately. And so, yes, we can speak about something, we can, do protest about it, we can do whatever, but at the end of the day, we can't forget that Krishna has a role with every one of us. And that even if I'm not getting the satisfaction I think I deserve, that Krishna is seeing, they're seeing everything. You know, nothing is going past Krishna. So at the end of the day, it's not that we don't speak, but we may like bring that to everyone's awareness. Like, look, Krishna is in control of the situation. Krishna knows what is going on. I can speak, I can step out. Ultimately, each person will have to be responsible. Ultimately. And so sometimes we may say, well, I don't have time to wait for Krishna to act. And that's our choice. Krishna gives us choices. And, you know, I've personally seen in my own life when having patience and seeing how Krishna intervenes. I've seen that so many times. So some things require patience, some things. And yeah, but no, I'm not saying in any way not to have freedom of expression, not to be self-expressed. That's like taking our basic human rights away. I would never say that. We got to be self-expressed. But at some point, sometimes when we're self-expressed, we might be going against a brick wall, you know, and that happens. I've seen that. I've seen that with many authorities. There are many, many authorities in our ISKCON movement that their natural tendency is to not want to deal with conflicts. It doesn't even have to do with anything of them being a devotee or them being an authority maybe in their own you know, life before they became a devotee. They hide away from conflicts. They don't want to deal with conflicts. It's just not a part of their nature. There are many people like that in our movement. They just don't want to deal with conflicts. And I've seen that. And I personally have gone to some authorities about something that I did not agree with. And when they told me, let's see how Krishna plays it out, I'm like, okay, they're not going to deal with this conflict. Well, let's see. We just got to see how Krishna plays it out. And I see Krishna plays it out. Ultimately, I do see that. So, I mean, yes, it's wonderful to always have that mood of wanting to protect the guru. But don't forget Krishna in the picture. Yes, Sriman Varaha Acharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavad.
Dandavad Pranam.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Welcome back. I hope you're doing fine. I hope your health is fine.
Thank you.
So,
yeah.
Okay. I'm not the one asking questions. Mother Yashoda Mai is here. She wants to greet you and she wants to ask questions also.
My sweet sister. How are you? Exploring the world.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, some humble obeisances of Lord Gurudev, of Lord Prabhupada. How are you?
Shirade. I've had better physical conditions, but I'm totally, absolutely happy.
Good.
How are you?
Good. It's nice to hear you. I'm good. I am excited, inspired, happy to be back on the African continent in West Africa after how many decades? Under the wonderful, warm embrace of Srimad VRAJA-LILA Prabhu, who's hosting me very nicely here. We just finished a Food for Life. We just finished distributing maybe about 100 plates of, over 100. I was counting the plates that we were giving out, over 100 plates of prasadam. So it's going very nicely. But Prabhu, I have a question for you, and I think it kind of runs into what Govinda Prabhu was just saying, and you may ultimately have answered it, but going back to what you originally were saying about respect, I remember you were talking about how important it is for the devotees to remain in that mood of being respectful. But then it says in I'm not sure where, but Srila Prabhupada says, or it says in the Bhagavatam that if somebody insults your spiritual master, that you're supposed to kill them. And if you can't kill them, then you can, just walk away from them, which is not a respectful thing to do. But how do you balance those two reactions in 2026, in this modern age that if somebody is being quite rude, quite offensive to a spiritual master, but then how are you supposed to deal with that when you're in the two paradigms?
Well, as I've given this example before from our own spiritual master and how I've experienced him and how he's dealt with situations like that. But firstly, I'd like to address that quote from Prabhupada, because sometimes we quote Prabhupada, it's sometimes not taken in context. And so in the context where that was expressed, where Prabhupada says, that one's duty is to, if one speaks against the spiritual master, then or offends the spiritual master, yeah, then the first duty is to kill that person, is to kill, or as you said, the other one is to walk away. So Prabhupada was given that example based on a situation, that was happening with I believe it was the Juhu temple, and he was having so much conflicts, building that temple. And so he was helping his disciples, who at that time were getting kind of distracted, by the many different very wealthy personalities that were obstructions to that temple. So he was helping his disciples to try to understand Guru Tattva and the depth of Guru Tattva. And so in the case of our own spiritual master, where I have personally seen him being offended in many situations, as you have, and how he personally instructed us to deal with those situations. And his instruction was, try to be kind, try to be nice, do your best, to try to encourage those persons that may be responding in ways that may not, that we may not see as acceptable. And in that lesson, he taught us a couple of things. One is that there are people in our movement that are very traditional, as you know, and they approach things from a traditional perspective. And then there are people that are innovative and creative, and they approach things from a different perspective. Both are important because both are trying to serve Srila Prabhupada. Now, in the case where someone is just being offensive, even if they're a leader in our movement, then of course that has to be brought, to the attention of that person and to the attention of other people that can make a difference in that situation, right? So it's not, again, freedom of expression is there. It's not that we don't speak out about what the person might be doing, but if it falls on a deaf ear and those persons happen to be authority, then we do have to wait, not have to, I mean, we could take it upon our own hands and just go and, protest and break down the temple or whatever it is, we can kill the person by, destroying whatever was built, or we can choose, we can make a choice to acknowledge the situation, understand the situation, share the situations with others that can make a difference. But if nobody's acting on making a difference at all, no one, and they happen to be in the authorities, they happen to be the people that's in charge, then we may have to wait till they're not in charge. We may have to be instrumental in not letting them be in charge. And that requires love in action, right? That's what Gurudev says, love in action. We bring our love because obviously something is not helping the whole. And so if it's not helping the whole, then, whatever we do, we got to do it based on love. Even the materialists are thinking like this. I mean, even the materialists are understanding this basic principle. We got to do it with love, to the degree that we can bring up some love. Like just recently, I think this morning I saw this, I was looking at something and I saw this person sent a message to the world. Hate is more, I think what it says, hate is more, love is more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Right, something like that. I'm like, this is a materialist, you know what I mean? They're a material person. And somehow or other, people are becoming awakened, and we're to lead them. We're the ones to lead that. So if we fall into the trap of acting like unconscious materialists, that's not helping. So we got to be the leaders, and the leaders got to have some love. We got to first have that love with ourselves. But we don't have that with ourselves, it's hard to give it to others. It's hard. So that's, I don't know, is that a little bit helpful?
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
You know, sometimes as devotees too, we have, like I was saying, there's that side of the coin where you have people and they get in power that they just don't like to deal with conflicts. And then you have people also that are very, like, let's say, Chacha nature, right? They have that Chacha nature. They have that, even, let's say, before they became devotees. So they are activists. They want to see things happen. They want to make things happen. They want to see changes. They want transformations, you know? And there are persons like that. And that's very valuable. However, again, how we do it is important. We got to do it in a way that make a lasting impact. And especially in our case, we want to do it in such a way that we keep our Gurude's legacy alive in a very loving and caring way, because that was his mood. That was his mood. So I'm sure you got your dialogue hat on. We can either go in these situations with our confrontation hat, or we can go in with our avoidance hat, or we can go with our dialogue hat. And I know you have your dialogue hat on. I trust you, and I know that you want the best situation for everyone.
Hare Krishna. Govinda Prabhu, I think I heard you say something. I think that might be the last.
I understand Mother's answers to this very important questions. Everything has to be done with love. But if the persuading fails, then the force must be applied. And if the force is applied, do you call that as love or what? Because there are certain situations that you try to do it with love, and then that approach is not working. If it is not working and we apply force, we call that love.
Well, the thing is with force, sometimes we win and sometimes we lose, because that's a material construct, the force part. So with force, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it works temporarily. So the governing principle is always try to do things with love. Always. However, using force, especially because it's an institution that's designed in a certain way, and it has, you know, what do you say, like gatekeepers. The institution does have gatekeepers. So yeah, so we got to be a little bit aware of how the gatekeepers will gatekeep. When push comes to shove, at the end of the day, how will all the gatekeepers connect together to make something that could have possibly, with time and patience, worked out, can make it a total disaster, because the gatekeepers decides that they're gonna, you know, come together. And remember, we are an institution of global gatekeepers. It's not just one little place at the end of the day.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother. Of course, as always, we thank you all devotees for your beautiful questions, contributions. Mother Yashoda Mai, it's so beautiful to see you being in Africa with our big brother, Srimad VRAJA-LILA Prabhu, and hearing that you are very nicely being taken care of. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's sweet. I just want to say one thing to you, Sharmai. Please go swim in the ocean for me. When you get in the ocean, just let Varuna know. I'm coming in here because Mother VRAJA-LILA wants to come in there. It's one of the best oceans, really. It's so beautiful in Lome.
Yeah. I would like to.
Don't worry. That's on my agenda for the next couple of days.
Beautiful.
Hare Krishna. I would like to say that we were all born of women, and we were all taken care of by women. And there is no closest love of Godhead than that of a mother and her baby. Yet we see that sometimes the mother gives her loving child some spanking. Those spanking may appear to the child as hate, as not loving. A bystander may see it that way, but oftentimes it is out of love. We are all students of Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we all know how, even though nobody wants to be confrontational, nobody wants to cause any pain, but sometimes the only way out is to cause pain. And Arjuna brought up all sort of arguments why he should not use pain to rectify situation. And Krishna told him otherwise. We are not Arjuna, so we may not be able to do that, but it is a lesson for us. Like Govinda Prabhu was saying, if there is an error, and we are all human beings, we can make errors. And someone is drawing attention to the error, and nobody is saying anything about it. And not just even not saying anything about it, but actually fanning the error. Then some of us, I would say, somebody like me, I will never be silent. I was born one day, I will die one day. And when I die, like my Guru Dev said, Srila Prabhupada will ask me, what did you see and what did you do? And I'll tell Srila Prabhupada, this is what I saw and this is what I did. I'm not doing anything because I can effect any change, but I'm doing whatever I'm doing as a matter of responsibility. With that being said, we thank you all devotees. We're going to humbly request you all.
Dave, I want to ask you one quick question. And this is totally out of my lane. And I'm asking it to everyone here that has...
This will be here forever.
Anyone that has this, this challenge that you may be speaking about, Govinda Prabhu. I'm wondering, since there was an open forum to bring the concerns to an open, I think, GBC meeting. It's totally not my lane, but I did learn about this. Did anyone from Africa go and speak about these concerns?
There were close to 400 participants, audience. So, and the meeting, the Ishtagoshti went on for about 2 hours, 12, 15 minutes. And there were pre-selected questions answered. And I personally do not find that particular Ishtagoshti to be the solution to some of these concerns. Rather, I think these personal troublesome questions can be sent to the GBC, probably not at that particular Ishtagoshti period time for them to address it. But thankfully, I attended that meeting, and it was interesting to hear some of the questions, because some of the questions hit home. Some things I can relate to in my own area of serving devotion, Krishna. And at least it's interesting to know that the problem you're going through is not just limited to your area alone. That is a problem going on in other places. So, like Govinda Prabhu said, if we truly love Srila Prabhupada, we'll try to do anything, everything possible to make sure that the house he toiled to build do not get destroyed by the very people living in the house. So,
if I can respond to Mother VRAJA-LILA's question about bringing up concern during Easter Gospel. Ishwara Prabhuji in the chat room, he sent this question about the situation in West Africa, but it was not. I mean, they did not give answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So of course, I went into the meeting not expecting that our voice would be heard. And he, being in India, he actually asked a question, and it was not, there was no response given to his question. So not to talk about any one of us here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing for me.
Right.
And I think Salika.
yeah, Salika Prabhu, big brother.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mother VRAJA-LILA, thank you so much for this beautiful class for today and the answers. One thing that is very unique which makes me not to want to miss any of your class is that most often times, unlike any other speakers, you speak directly to application of the philosophy. And that actually is one thing for me whenever I listen to your class, because you don't just speak the philosophy or the stories, but you speak to the application of it in our individual devotional life and its growth. So thank you very much for that. I just wanted to quickly respond to the last question you asked, Saturday's Prabhu's response.
What you put in your mouth? Don't put it.
Okay, sorry for that interruption. So actually, the Easter Gospel, I want to commend the GBC for taking the bold steps to at least come up with such an initiative. It shows that there is some noise getting to the ears of the GBC that things are not going right. And I went into the meeting not expecting anything more than what we experienced yesterday, because but I went in India to see what is there and then what we can do to improve the effort that the GBC body has made in bringing that kind of platform forward. Yeah, the issues of West Africa could not have been discussed in that place because it's something beyond that kind of a fora. And when I heard from Saadi Prabhu about your return to America, I was also planning to have a one-on-one with you at some point in time, and I will be very glad if I'm able to have that opportunity to have that one-on-one with you. There is a lot of challenge. It's not synonymous to West Africa alone. ISKCON globally is going through a lot of challenge. But like a local adage will say, when you're getting burnt in a fire outbreak and your child or your siblings are there, the first thing you do is to at least get yourself free first before you start attending to help others. So West African issues need to be taken seriously by us first, and then you can see how we can use that resolve whatever we get from here to help the ISKCON global space. So I think that GBC have done well by coming up with that, but that platform was just a kind of an attempt to show that they are listening and they want to listen. And I believe that going forward, maybe we'll have some positive development in resolving ISKCON challenges across the globe.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for that balanced perspective. Really appreciate that. Yeah, and I just lastly just want to beg my forgiveness and ask, to please forgive me for any offenses or anything that I may have spoken that perhaps created even more internal conflict. Please forgive me for that. And that anything I spoke that did resonate with your heart, that's coming from the mercy of my spiritual master and from Srila Prabhupada. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. You are not forgiven because you did not offend. If you did not offend, there's no reason to be forgiven. So That is it. Hare Krishna devotees, please, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all with one love, one heart, chant the holy names of the Lord Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to our beloved big sister, Her Grace, Mother VRAJA-LILA Devi. Please, you may all unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Vancha Karpa Tarunja, Kripa Sindhya Sivarajaha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Mo
Our
Namaha.
Grace Madhya Devi
Krishna.
Dasi Ki
Jai.
Jai. This confounder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai. All glories to assemble devotees.
Hare Krishna.